that are having babies and being born. But the northern white rhinos are on their last legs. And shortly after I got home, I was sad to read the headline in the newspaper that Sudan had died. So I've now made photographs and written stories for many books, but I thought you might enjoy just learning a little more about how I got started. For several years, I was fortunate to work as a photojournalist, making news and animal and political stories for local and international magazines. I was lucky to visit the White House in Washington, D.C., and share some of the historic moments there during my time as a news photographer. My interest in politics in the United States led me to do a series of books about our elected officials. But when I got tired of being around politics and politicians, I needed to escape into a different kind of jungle, a natural one in Africa. And with many natural habitats around the world rapidly shrinking and disappearing, I traveled the globe to photograph species of endangered animals before they disappear. And one of my favorite animals, and also one that is among the most threatened and struggling for survival, is the mountain gorilla. Sadly, there are now less than 700 of these powerful and shy creatures left on Earth. And maybe like some of you, I got my first look at a gorilla in a movie theater. But a lot of movies or cartoons often exaggerate gorillas and turn them into fierce bullies or mean monsters, when in reality they're actually quiet, peaceful animals, most happy to live without ever encountering people at all. So I made a long journey to East Africa, hoping to stare deep into the wide eyes of some of our world's few remaining mountain gorillas. Those gorillas living in the mountains of Uganda. Now, a lot of wildlife stories or Discovery Channel and Animal Planet documentaries, they tend to portray animals as if they live in giant zoos or protected areas that are completely isolated and living away from people. And one theme I explore in this book is that this population of gorillas and most groups of endangered wildlife don't, in fact, live in isolation or all alone by themselves. Even if they're protected and in special wildlife parks, most animals still have a special relationship with the people around them and the people that are paid to protect them. So, of course, although I love wildlife, I think it's also important to remember the people of the neighboring villages and think about what sacrifices or rewards affect the lives of the people living nearby. I found out that getting close enough to photograph those few mountain gorillas is a real challenge. Mountain gorillas have never survived in captivity. None can be found in circuses or animal theme parks or zoos. And the entire remaining population lives in the dense rainforests of two neighboring national parks in Central Africa. The first stop on my journey in Uganda is in Kampala, the capital city. It's a busy, colorful center filled with people and shoppers, a center for schools and children coming from the countryside for education. It has a wide variety of hotel choices, although I confess I didn't spend too much time at this particular African hotel. But when I get to a new place, I like to take a walk and warm up to new smells and new sights. But I was a little confused when I passed the human drug shop. It did make me pause and wonder, what else might try to walk through that front door, looking for some medicine? But Kampala is the place I had to pick up my official gorilla tracking permits from the Uganda Wildlife Authority. And the permits are expensive. Each 1 hour session can today cost as much as $500 per visit. That's 20 times more than the Ugandan National Park's permit for a full day with the other animals that live nearby, like the zebras, lions, black rhinos, or elephants. Even though this is a lot of money, I know this small fortune is going to help protect many other endangered species. And the money raised from those expensive permits I just bought will help the Uganda Wildlife Authority pay the park rangers to protect all the plants and animals and provide medicine and research studies for other species as well. The money also goes to pay for the repair of the local roads and to provide medicine and care for local children. So the people living near the animals have the gorillas and the tourists that visit them to thank for some of the resources that keep them healthy. The mountain gorillas are indeed the superstars of all the endangered species in Central Africa. After I have my permits, it's still a long 8 hour drive to the southern mountains. It's a journey that starts in the northern hemisphere and ends across the invisible line that marks the equator in the southern hemisphere. It's a journey that twists and turns through a landscape of sharp angles. Uganda is a green and fertile country. The soil's healthy for growing, and the old road is surrounded on all sides by fields of bananas and beans and tomatoes that hug the sides of the hills. The people that work the fields press their feet deep into the rich dirt so they can harvest the food that they need for their survival. There are very few cars or trucks traveling here, and the roads become wide sidewalks alive with people. Everyone is carrying something needed for survival. And sometimes the load is even larger than the carrier. I love bikes and scooters, and I have a few in a collection here at home. But I'd never seen a two-wheeled vehicle quite like this anywhere before. These boys had made these scooters themselves. They carved the drive wood and held everything together with pegs and string. They offered to make one specially fitted for me, but I didn't think I could check it in on the airplane as another piece of luggage alongside all my other travel and photo gear. Nestled into the valley gardens are homes built out of mud, sticks, and dried grasses. They look like chocolate cupcakes with drips of mocha frosting running over them. Throughout the day, wisps of white smoke stream through small holes in the roofs, rising up from the cooking fires burning within. As I traveled by, the scent of burnt charcoal filled my nose. As I got near to Kisoro, the town closest to where the mountain gorillas live, one set of jagged peaks replaced another around each winding corner, and the long rays of sunlight fell into deep shadows. In this small corner of Africa, 3 countries, Uganda, Rwanda, and the Democratic Republic of the Congo, meet in a chain of rough mountains called the Virungas. The steep slopes all around are part of an active volcanic range that thrusts high up into the soft rain clouds. And it is here that the last remaining mountain gorillas make their home, divided almost equally between 2 areas that are monitored by national park rangers. The 2 gorilla populations once lived together in a single large forest, but little by little, African farmers cleared the land in the Central Valley of the gorilla's habitat. And the gorillas slowly divided into separate groups, while the farmers stayed in the middle. Rising the next morning before daybreak, I drive from Kisoro to my first scheduled meeting with the gorillas. I can see the dense forest that defines the border of the protected conservation land of the national park. Small homes and gardens grow right up to its rough edges. I check in to meet my guide from my visit. His name is Silver Gamba. Silver grew up on the border of Windy National Park, and now today he is the chief ranger. He spent every day for the past years in the company of the gorillas. At first, the gorillas would flee deep into the forest when Silver and his team arrived. But over time, the gorillas grew comfortable with the rangers, allowing them to move closer and closer. At sunrise each morning, Silver leaves the small one-room house that he shares with his family, and he hikes in to meet the gorillas. These daily morning visits help to preserve the gorillas' acceptance of humans so that tourists like me can pay to hike in and see them. At the edge of the forest, Silver explained to me there are many strict rules that all visitors must follow. We cannot disturb the gorillas. He then firmly explains my visit will be limited to 1 hour, 60 minutes exactly. Any time longer than that might alter the regular patterns of the gorillas. Then he reviews a long list of things for me to remember. No food or eating, no photographs with a flash, no loud noise or talking, and no getting closer than 5 meters to a gorilla. And last of all, no sneezing, since I could also make the gorillas sick. The family of gorillas that I'm visiting is called the Nkaringo group. They're named for a little village next to where they were first seen. And although Silver and his team have been tracking these gorillas for 4 years, I get to be the first photographer and the first outside visitor the Nkaringo gorillas will encounter. This makes me nervous as I study Silver and his team with their dark African skin. I look so pale and different from them. So ask Silver, what might the Nkaringo gorillas think of my white skin? Do you think they'll be frightened of me? Don't worry, Richard, he reassures me. With all of your cameras, they will hardly notice your skin color. People still live right up to the very edge of the national park, and the gorillas may not always understand why they can't eat from someone's garden. And the local people are also surprised to learn they're the only people in Africa or anywhere in the world who live next to mountain gorillas. And when they see a gorilla leaving the protection of the park, they call Silver and the rangers who help to chase the gorillas back into the safety of the forest. Crossing into the park this early morning, we quickly begin our steep climb to visit the gorillas. There are no paths or sidewalks or buses, taxis or chair lifts for human guests. And once I plunge into that thick, wet forest, I have to overcome the same obstacles that the gorillas confront each day. This is hard work. Silver opens his frayed notebook and looks for the last location where the gorillas were seen the day before. This is where we start today's visit. As we move through the brush, the trackers look for signs and clues. Broken branches, piles of dung, and tracks in the mud are the jungle's road markers to finding the path that the gorillas have made in their search for fresh food. Mountain gorillas usually spend all morning searching for food and then sitting and eating. Once they find that cafeteria of leaves, green bamboo, they stop for breakfast and they take their time feasting. This is when Silver and his team of rangers usually arrive, so these gorillas have gotten used to people visiting them during their breakfast. I smell something really strong, and Silver shows me the first clue that the gorillas might be close. It's a wide, flat pile of spongy leaves and branches, the nests the gorillas slept in the night before. I smile when I see the source of that ripe odor. It's the warm piles of fresh dung that line the nests. So it's really the gorilla's poop that tells us that they're probably nearby. I hear branches snapping and realize it's the gorillas racing up the hillside, searching for their breakfast. Following Silver, I crawl ahead. Come on, he urges me. We're almost with them now. Swinging his sharp knife, He cuts through the brush and heavy vines and opens up a 3-foot wide tunnel for me to peer through. Look through these branches, he says. The gorillas are here. They've stopped to eat, and we have found them. My heart's pounding as I step forward, but I'm pulled in two directions. Should I grab my camera, or should I simply look ahead to see with my own eyes the mountain gorillas whom I've traveled so far to meet? I remind myself that I came here as a photographer and that my first glimpse should come through my lens. I raise my camera. I look up and ahead, and I see a pair of wide eyes staring right back at me. I press the shutter again and again. I have found the moment that I came here to photograph. I stay focused, my eyes locked, as I continue to record my first mountain gorilla, who's carefully selecting the sweetest branch to munch on. A vine moves and a row of wide, knobby fingers float up, placing a bouquet of spiny-tipped leaves into a round bulb of a mouth. She chews her breakfast and raises her thick arm for more, almost as if in slow motion. I watch her through my camera and see her slowly chewing, delicately stripping the outer leaf from a long stem. By now I'm soaked with sweat, but I'm delighted to be another soggy piece of the rainforest, and maybe another strong odor as well. I look to my left and I see the leader of this family troop. It's a large male known as a silverback. He gets his name from that dramatic wedge of lighter colored hair that covers his back. As the silverback settles in to slowly chew on some leaves, he moves deeper into the brush, making my job so much harder. But I realize full well the gorillas are here for food and not to give me better angles to make my photographs. Let me share a few of the things that I learned in my visit in the rainforest. Gorillas are primarily vegetarians, but they do have a sweet spot for any ants or insects that might wander by. The adults consume between 20 and 30 kilos of food each day, but since the leaves and roots and twigs and bark and berries that they eat are small and lightweight, the gorillas have to spend more than half of each day just looking for food. The gorillas have strong bonds to one another and stay close together in groups of 20 to 30. Both the males and the females care for and play with their young. This was obvious to me during the late mornings after they've eaten, as they bounce and sway through trees and vines. Maybe they're looking for a comfortable place to take a nap later on during the heat of the midday sun. The babies and smaller gorillas cling to the adults as family members groom one another. The babies will nurse and stay right next to their mothers for about 6 months, and after that they slowly start to roam and explore more on their own. But where are the young gorillas? I still was hoping for that photo too, and with only minutes left of my permitted 1 hour, I looked way up a tall kapok tree, and a small 1-year-old emerged from the branches for just a few seconds. I had enough time to focus and hold down the shutter for a quick sequence as this playful gorilla hopped between shadow and direct sunlight, giving me a real test of my photography skills. And then finally settling in so I could make one portrait, just as Silver held up his hand and signaled to me that my hour was past and it was time to give the forest back to the gorillas. Although all of my gorilla visits have been to Uganda, the gorillas themselves travel internationally without visas or tour guides. They cross into neighboring Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of the Congo as the seasons change, and they pursue food supplies on all sides of the border. But there are still many problems facing the mountain gorillas. There's still conflict and war in this corner of Africa, and bombs and bullets are still affecting the gorillas. But the benefits that tourism and visitors bring to the local people are shared on all sides of the border and in all three countries. But the gorillas themselves have no passports. The gorillas are free ambassadors, bringing people to see them in Africa and bringing smiles to the African people that live right alongside them as they invite everyone to a breakfast in the rainforest. Thank you so much for watching and listening, and I'm happy to take some of your questions now. So let me stop that. And
Thank you. Wow. Guys, that was amazing. And let's plan our trip to Africa then. Butisa,
excellent.
maybe Butisa wants to be the looking at the gorilla. And I feel like when I listen to your story, I feel uh, I'm in there. Just like go through all the steps and then the action from silver and the wow, that was amazing.
Thank you. That's
So
a high compliment. I appreciate that. And again, one thing you can see that I do, which is different than many nonfiction books you may be familiar with, is that even though it's a book about conservation and gorillas, my job is to find the story there and to find a way to make it interesting. So, and that's as writers, and when you have assignments, that's one of your challenges to find a way to give it a beginning and a middle and an end, and give it some detail that makes it not just a list of facts.
yeah. Year seven, do you have any questions or any thoughts? Come on. Or maybe some of you have seen the gorilla. Have you ever been to Indonesia, sir?
Yes, in fact,
Ah, okay.
I have a project that I've started. I have a lot of works in progress, and actually one of them is on the orangutan. So I have been twice, three times to Kalimantan
Oh, Kalimantan.
to
Yep.
visit
We
the
have the conservation in there.
to
Oh, we
visit.
have some questions from Kian Dewantara. Have you ever like gotten scared when you came there?
Actually, there have been some frightening moments in my work, and most often the most frightened I've been have been of humans more so than of animals. I like to show you the the warm pictures and the pretty pictures, but part of my job sometimes is to also document some of the trouble and problems that animals have, and some of the cruelty that people create in conflict situations with animals. So I've been in situations to protect, particularly the seals and elephants and tigers, and the people that are doing harm to those animals get very angry when they see a photographer there because they know that I'm a threat to what they're doing. So I have had more dangerous encounters with humans than with animals.
Okay, thank you. Next, what was your most memorable moments, but not from this trip specifically, not from the
Again,
episode.
some of the experience, the moments I tend to be most appreciative are when I get to places that are the hardest to get to. So, for example, Borneo, especially from where I live, it's a very long journey to get there, 4 or 5 days probably from the time I begin. And I love your country, but sometimes your local airline schedules are not always to be trusted. So sometimes I've had some delays to get to my destination. So And then I'm most happy when I get to a place that's been a lot of work to get to.
Next. Oh, sorry. Who's want to ask something? Okay. What was your favorite animal encounter?
I I like big animals. So the mountain gorillas are the largest of the primates. So I like them. Um, I like elephants very much, and I like whales. And they're in the summer months, but our summer, June, July, August, September, we get a lot of whales come to my part of the Atlantic Ocean. It's their feeding grounds, and they migrate from southern waters to off of Cape Cod where I live. So I love the whales.
Okay. So I think we can have two more. Like, when being a wildlife photographer, what sort of background information about the animals do you have to learn about?
Oh, excellent question. I do a lot of research, and I read a lot of books, and I try to contact some experts who can help to guide me. And also, I always have somebody like Silver, who is the local expert, to make sure that I'm safe and make sure I get to where I have to get to.
Okay. Last questions. What kinds of book genres have you written? And maybe I want to ask, like, do you have any last project, like the recent project?
So the works in progress now, which I'm just about finished with the book about Sudan and the last northern white rhinos. I will hopefully be completing the book about the orangutans. But I'm sure you're very aware of the conflict with the palm plantations and the loss of lack of the forest being cut down for the palm oil production and how that's impacting the wildlife. So I usually and another book that I'm finishing on whales, but I like to go see the whales so much that maybe I'll never finish that book. So I always have an excuse to keep going to see the whales.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, year seven, for the great questions. Uh, and I hope maybe someday, if you visit Kalimantan again and you want to visit Jakarta, you can come to our school and you can share
I look
to
forward to
us.
the time when all our borders are again open.
Okay. Oh, Daryl said, I love writing books. I'm writing one now. Okay, Daryl. Okay, maybe like, okay, our time is up. You can turn on your microphone and maybe can say thank you. And yep, thank you, year seven, for your time. Hope you have a
Thank you
great
all.
day.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
Bye,
you.
everyone.
everyone. Thank
Thank
you.
you and take
Bye.
care.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
Okay, so we have
you.
10 minutes now.
Yes. So
Okay,
we
great.
will start again 8:40.
Excellent.
Okay.